All right. So I just want to welcome Quentin Zondervan here. He is a city councilor and has been essential in getting Green Cambridge started, revived many years ago, and has been really part of the, the push for shifting the energy in Cambridge. So um, Quentin, can you just tell me a little bit about what's happened in like the past, say, like 10 years in terms of energy in Cambridge?
Yeah, thanks. Um, so we've been looking at it through the Climate Protection Action Committee, which is a city advisory committee that looks at climate change policy. And out of that discussion and some of the work I was doing in Green Cambridge in 2013, so about 7 years ago, we decided to file a zoning petition to demand that all new buildings would be net zero emissions.
What does that
And
mean, zero?
that means over the course of 1 year, the building energy consumption doesn't contribute to emissions. And that can be accomplished in different ways, but the basic constraint is that in the summer, if you're using solar panels, you're producing a lot more energy. And then in the winter, you're consuming energy, and so you have to balance out those two things over the course of a year.
And you have solar panels on your house, right?
I do, and I have two solar systems, well, three actually, because I have a hot water system as well. And I see that pretty clearly over the course of a year for my solar panels, right? That they produce excess energy in the summer, which is then put into the grid. And then in the winter, I consume some of that energy back from the grid to make up for that production. And so basically, over the course of a year, my house is about 80% solar powered right now. And then the other 20%, I buy 100% renewable electricity.
Wow.
Yeah, so my house isn't quite net zero yet, but we're getting there. There's just a couple of appliances that I have to replace, the stove and the gas dryer, and then we're done. So that petition led to a task force, which led to the Net Zero Action Plan, which was adopted by the City Council 5 years ago in 2015. And that's setting the course for our building energy policies in the city. And that includes things like the Building Energy Use and Disclosure Ordinance, which requires large buildings to report their energy consumption. It includes our Green Building Ordinance, which we just recently updated to require new construction buildings to be LEED Gold minimum. And going forward, it will mandate that in 2022, small residential buildings are constructed net zero. In 2025, large residential and commercial buildings, and in 2030, laboratories. And then the city went first, so they committed to building net zero by 2020. But in fact, we've already been doing that, and so the Cambridge Street School project was all net zero, and the new Tobin School project will be constructed, well, technically net zero ready, and then we're working on our supply contract right now that's going to start in January 2021 to hopefully get 100% renewable electricity to power all of our city buildings. And that means that these school buildings will be net zero because they don't have any fossil fuel combustion.
Yeah. So what can that's amazing. What do you think a teenager can do in their neighborhood around energy consumption, energy efficiency?
Yeah, so I think going neighbor to neighbor is really super important. That's been Green Cambridge's philosophy from the very beginning. When I revived it in 2011, one of the first programs I started was the rain barrel program, where I would go and help neighbors install a rain barrel. And that would lead to further conversations. They would invariably ask me, you know, what else can we do? How do we get, you know, more energy efficient appliances? How can we get solar? And so a lot of those questions led me to teaming up with Jocelyn in Watertown, who started Neighborhood Solar. And so we started promoting neighborhood solar door to door in Cambridge and Belmont, Watertown, Arlington, and Somerville. And so it's really important to have these conversations, neighbor to neighbor, connect with each other, and, you know, kind of be in it together, right? Because people like that feeling of, oh, you know, I'm not this weirdo doing this by myself. I'm really out there with a lot of other people trying to improve our energy efficiency. And we sort of normalize the behavior, right? And so over time, more and more people just start thinking, oh, that's just what we do. We just put solar panels on them, you know.
And you've gone door to door yourself, right?
Oh yeah, many times, and of course more recently as a politician campaigning for office. But it's really key to building our community and also to making our community more resilient, you know, to getting to know each other.
Yeah, and in this age of COVID, it's a little harder because you got to stay distantly. But you know, we can definitely make phone calls too.
Right.
You've made a lot of phone calls to people in the city too.
Definitely, and Zoom calls, you know, it's a little bit less satisfying than visiting somebody in person, but it's still proven to be very effective. Even the regular phone call can be very persuasive when you're trying to convince someone to do something, particularly because our values are already aligned. Most people in Cambridge want to do something, and so you're really just offering them a solution that they were looking for in the first place.
And the state and the city, you know, have a lot of programs going on, along with the EverSource, the electric utility. Why do you think some people don't know about those?
Well, you know, I think we don't spend a lot of energy as a culture, pardon the pun, thinking about our energy. You know, I mean, Audrey at Heat used to say, you know, we spend more time thinking about our cell phone data plans than we think about our energy consumption, right? And so people aren't necessarily seeking out that information. But if you present it to them and you say, hey, you know, here's some ways that you can save on your utility bills, you know, people get interested because, I mean, everybody likes to save money. And if you can save money and save the planet at the same time, you know, why not? I mean, there's really no reason not to do it. So once people know about it and they understand the benefits, they generally speaking will do it.
Yeah, and one of the programs that we'll be promoting is the ability for renters to actually save some money and to get like a home energy audit and that kind of stuff. We have a lot of renters, you know, in the city. 60% of the people who live here rent, and that definitely changes like some of the it changes some of the how you approach these things. But I think it can be something that, you know, really speaks to a lot of people's values, even though they may not be able to put solar panels on their roof because they don't own their roof or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you for joining us this morning. Or, well, this is actually pre-recorded from Thursday afternoon. But if some of the students are really interested in the work that you're doing, can they get in touch with you?
Please, absolutely.
Great.
Love to talk with them.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Quentin, and look forward to working with you more. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.